Jordan Conrad's with Gateway Pub down here with Arizona State Representative Alex Kolodin. So, Representative Kolodin, you and the Freedom Caucus, you really stuck it to Katie Hobbs on Monday before her State of the State address. How do you plan to hold Democrats accountable while Katie Hobbs is still in the governor's office?
Well, what I want to say is my comment was a mirror of what Hobbs had said. She had talked about people that she'll work with and people that I opposed. And I always believe in matching the tone of one's opponents, right? And so I talked about sticking it to Katie Hobbs, but I also talked about working across the aisle on things that everybody should agree on, like transparency in our elections, like stabilizing our water supply and all of that. And it's the people who are just dedicated to being partisans and depriving voters of the right to know what's going on in their elections. Those are the people that need to be opposed. But there are some concrete things, even in divided government, that the legislature can do to protect the rights of voters and citizens of the state. One of the things that may seem counterintuitive to conservatives is we absolutely have to strip the line item from the budget for funding for the election integrity unit in the AG's office, and that's sad to say. But unless Hamadeh prevails on his challenge, and I hope that he will, but unless he does, that unit is going to be weaponized and it's going to be turned into a machine for prosecuting conservative activists. And so we have to make sure that funding is gone. Similarly, what we've seen from the governor while she was Secretary of State is the use of $1,000 an hour attorneys, $500,000 an hour attorneys, to carry out a litigation agenda that's outside the purview of her office. In this state, the AG is the chief law enforcement agent. The taxpayer already pays for that. And what we need to make sure that the budget makes clear is that if you're the governor, you have to use the attorneys the taxpayers already provided for you. You can't spend their money on $1,000 an hour lawyers. So these are various things that we can do to hold the governor accountable to following the law, to constrain her to the proper scope of government. And as well, there's various other tools that the legislature has had, where we've had a lot of planning meetings about that, but I won't tip all my hand just yet.
Right, yeah, and I'm hearing Chris Mays is bringing on this Daniel Barr. He's a Mark Elias ally to be her deputy chief at the AG's office. And they're going to be using this election integrity unit to actually go after what they would call voter intimidation. They're going to be targeting conservatives who care about election integrity. Do you have anything more to say about that?
Yeah, our law firm is one of the firms that defends Clean Elections USA in a suit that was brought by some of Elias's people against them for exercising their constitutionally protected First Amendment protected activities of monitoring drop boxes and protesting the installation of drop boxes through their monitoring. And it was chilling that you had a team of 30 national lawyers come out of this organization, which is essentially one woman, just to make an example of her. And if we allow Chris Mays to go down that road, if we don't defund the EIU, that's going to happen to a lot of conservatives just for speaking out. You could see that happening with the J6 committee, or what happened with the J6 committee and the DOJ investigation of these attempts to turn allegations that somebody protested to their election officials, not the people who broke into the Capitol on J6, but people who said to elections officials, or allegedly said to elections officials, don't certify that election, to turn that into a crime. And it's going to be pretty soon where you're going to be watching your back every time you open your mouth, unless this legislature exercises the power of the purse to deprive Chris Mays of the ability to do that.
That's right. And so you're the vice chair of elections. This is a hot issue to you. What are you looking forward to most with your committee this session, and also just with legislation on elections?
Well, there's a couple of things that we're really looking forward to on the committee. The first thing is, I do think, believe it or not, if we could get past the partisanship, there is common ground on elections. Everybody agrees. I think if you get a couple beers in them, everybody agrees that more transparency in elections is good. It gives voters more power. And incidentally, it also makes our elections more secure to have more eyes on the process. And I'm very hopeful that a bill to make ballot images public record and to conform Arizona law to the Motor Voter Act, which says that the cast vote record needs to be public record too. Very hopeful that that will garner bipartisan support. Of course, as you know, the legislature also has very powerful and important oversight function. And so just because we're the legislature, we're primarily geared towards making laws, doesn't mean that we don't need information about whether the existing laws are adequate to protect voters. And so we're going to be looking very hard at the process of how elections are going to be conducted in the run-up to 2024 to make sure that what happened, this travesty that happened this year in our election, where you had machines go down all across Maricopa County on election day, to make sure that doesn't repeat itself. Our committee takes that very seriously.
Right. So how are you guys going to get this done with Katie Hobbs as governor? She has the power to veto. Do you guys have enough of a majority to totally uphold her agenda?
We do not have enough of a majority to override her veto. There are many tools that the Arizona legislature has given itself in the arsenal that it can exercise unilaterally. Over many years, many wise legislators have put those into the law to increase the power of this body. I'm not going to discuss right now what we think about what the more useful tools might or might not be. But those tools are there. But we also hope to make sure that just by people knowing that we're watching them, that hopefully at least some of them will follow the law a little bit better.